On sait pas.
Tiens.
C'est ça. Oui. Il est pris juste avant. Ouais, il est peut-être au fond de ton sac, mais bon. Alors, attends. Oui, c'est la plus dure. Tiens. Merci.
Comme tu veux. Comme ça t'arrange.
Ici, il n'y a que ça, ça aussi au podcast.
Oui, oui, c'est tout des webcasting. Tu vois, film.
C'est pas mieux que je me sois si c'est pas pour.
Non, non.
Non, je parle que d'habitude. Non, parce qu'on ne parle jamais déjà. Est-ce que ça oui, d'accord. Pardon? Oui, oui.
Je viendrai après, mais tu te proche un peu sur l'enceinte.
Une petite.
Et je ferai la première. Voilà, j'arriverai après.
Siamo tanti lavoratori di Guépèle.
Tout d'abord, je tiens à dire à tous, Tachidile, que bonjour.
First of all, I would like to greet you all in the Tibetan fashion, which is to say Tashidele.
다들인데 노래를 날라 다들인데 조조지야 때문에 지금이 있는 거라 다들인데 아무튼 내 조조는 지금도 루른들이 지기 좋은데 빼면서 가죠.
So we are today is the open house day of the institutes, Buddhist institutes, and I'm very happy to have this opportunity to see you again, for those who have seen before, and for those who haven't, to see you for the first time. So last year I was here as well, and we were able to gather together, and once again the same this year. And it's when you think about it, it's we're fortunate to have this opportunity to gather once again, because it's some people in the meantime have left us and are no longer with us, and we're here, so which means that of course we're still enjoying good health and so forth, and that's a wonderful thing. So during this talk, I would like to broach a few topics, give you a few express a few of my ideas and thoughts, so that as to how we can face our difficulties in our life.
Tachidan Zambolin Mangoyare Sim Tibusio Maris, Cabriteva, Cabritone, Nama Tibuyomas is the way already, Tibuya Maris, Cabab, Zamzam, Tibuya, and Zamzam Madiva. Zamolin me some Tibution, the Yodan Tungem, and the Tibuzian Redina, Zuleta Cabab, near the Namaratu Arati, Suzuki Malet, Melomtin in the dress.
Of course, we're a very large number of people in this world, and of course the experiences that each person undergoes will vary according to each individual's circumstances, and notably, of course, according to their karma, as this is how we explain things in Buddhism. Everyone wants to be happy, and of course not to have to face any kind of adversity, but unfortunately that's not always possible. People have their easy, happy times. Other people, and the same, and other times they can find things much more difficult. In other words, there's no stability. Things come and go.
Tantinal minal sashana, that chulu Ramanda Yore, Anamba Yore, the chulu Ramanda Chulu Chazan, the one Devata Tungam, and the Tigare, Chulu Ramanda Yovamanda. The dance was Mizinala, the one Devata Tungam, and the Tigare Manda. Chulu did the one Deva did Tungam, Mendicusati Amara, the Tungam and the Gangare, Chazan Chulu Samatamila, the Tigares.
So amongst you, I'm sure there are people who follow certain religions, and everyone has their own spiritual path. But despite each person's own path and practice or not non-practice, there's one common denominator between everyone, and that is that everyone wants to be as happy as possible, and everyone hopes to be able to avoid any kind of difficulties, any kind of problems or adversity, suffering, and so forth. This is absolutely universal.
수술 경험을 내다 멜롱스란다 다낭베시나 다강엔 담만다 투스레 기부 용스레 동해 용스레 뒤 사무담지 기규를 만다 신다 디아말 제선데 수술 삼류 동절로 무슨 지란다 지단 출루 사무담지 밀펜도 지금 딥스우지게 이슈이나다 출루 가가리나 심제 탐지를 펴부터 이땡겨리 다 낭배 계절 믹스에 낭배 톤시나 계절 믹스에 랑레시엔서 딜레 치모도 쳐서다 낭배 계절 조지라 지나 출루 간가 딥스지게 밀펜도지긴 경계를 만다 출루 디 밀내어 출루 디 밀펜도 서미세티가 말에 정말 딥스지게
So, like I said, in the world, not only here, but in the world, generally speaking, there are many different religions and spiritual paths, and each proposes methods to achieve a greater happiness in their lives and to cope with the adversities they have, and also each religion also encourages others to be beneficial to their fellow man, and that is something that is also shared between all religions. But of course, each person, though, has their own destiny in a sense, and has their own experience that they have to face. Like once again, in Buddhism, we understand this as the consequence of the past deeds, because in Buddhism we admit, of course, the notion of past and future lives, in other words, reincarnation. So past deeds, whether in the present life or past deeds of our past lives, also have a large part in determining what the experiences we undergo in the present life and in future lives. But this idea of being helpful and kind to other sentient beings is a trait which we find in all religions, regardless.
다 주사 낭괴 줄롱은 시나 랑리신 조차 시선다 주주다 랑리신만 고주의 수수인들 밤마 빙견만 고주는 섬을 동단지라 다신 조차 저런다 수수인 남고 냐고는 미자술을 참부지야 돼 비미스 개침을 되는 말씀제 던지반 로를 만다 수수 밤마 보고다 냐고를 밀틀남 도지라야고 매나 심제 던지 가우차라 세상에라 수수 냐고를 밤마 빙자 다 드스이단 비라 저와 다 봐도 펜도 저지라고 이 점낭배 도지레서
So, in Buddhism, particularly, the emphasis is put on the importance of considering others more important than oneself. This is a notion which is really fundamental to Buddhism, and it is the basis for generating a kindness towards eventually all sentient beings, but starting with those who are close to us. In other words, it's very important to first cultivate a good relationship with one's family members, parents, children, spouse, and so forth. And because if you lack that, how can you extend this wish for others' happiness to others further beyond the close circle of one's families and relations? Because this is the ideal in Buddhism, which is to come to consider all forms of life as important and more important than oneself, and to develop that wish for others' happiness, and to include, therefore, not just those who are close to one, but to gradually expand to increase the extent of one's benevolence, and so that it reaches all living beings. But if you lack a good relationship and a happy relationship with one's close parents and so forth, it's difficult to imagine how you could possibly have develop that same benevolence to include more and more living beings.
just in there 두수 파만다 부스세하리 두수 김자나라 야고 저라 조조 파만만 고조드미 보글 장전 제야당 지가라 디 단능베 날 차샤나 수수 파만다 보글 파만 파면 보글이 오면은 파만디에 양 휴스강에 되기 보글 파만이 오면은 슈마 보글 그런 거에 되기다 둔데는저를 진이래 파마를 하고 있잖아. 보고도 슈마 기부용 거 같아. 딘나시 너바미 파마도 보고 참고 여마를 쉬고매 이나에 먼저 배변도 단합 차시나 보고 파마 경고 뭐 가르쳐나 나를 수 있지 되어만다. 괜찮은 진선이 막 여마를라 딘데 기벨로 수요 수수 파마 강에 뭐 가르토나 수수 보고 호르보르는 수 되대와래. 그런데 딘낭베 계절을
So the starting point, so to speak, is one's family, one's parents, one's children, and one's spouse, and expanding from there to include more and more. But the nut, we can say the core is the parent and children relationship, and it's important that both the parents are good to the children, but also that the children are good to their parents. It's if the parents are have a good relationship with the children, are good to them, then of course the children will have a better chance of leading happy lives. But it works both ways as well. The children need also to be good to the parents to ensure their parents' happiness as well. And otherwise, the family relationship is the beginning of one's life, and if it doesn't go well, then of course it creates a sort of a precedent for more and more difficulties. For example, for the children in their lives as they grow up. And in traditional Buddhist, Tibetan society, the relationship with parents was very close, and also it was the children had a lot of consideration and concern for their parents, and there was never any question of, for example, of the children not looking after their parents as they got on, and of not looking after them was something, an idea that was unacceptable and impossible to imagine for people in traditional Tibetan society, and this is also founded in the Buddhist values.
다 밤에 목을 저 지나는 거다 밤에 수수 밤에 파고다 막은한데 마디 목을 저 저다 지다 파티 수수 보고 진짜 제모레디 이나에 마디다 수수 중중 담보스 류로 코네니 송강에 가르가리입니다. 난도 시험 먹었나 보죠. 목을 밤은 이제 미션다 당전에 잠부터 이제 땡그래 먼저 세시 먹어래. 다 보고 야 전부 너다 마신 봐도 밤에 좀 밤에 소중세 디는 일랍다던 거는 가르치고나 밤에 간가 갈래 간가 잡다디 슐다 밤에 디 사순다 보고 밤을 바로 지야 뒤질래라 디 마제베샤나 다 딜렌 롱제사디 그런 딜렌로 야우지결 봐 이메지 다 수수 밤을 야우제는 디 제메는 디 수수 논리임 하고 지구를 했으니 남부 시셔제나
En fait, les relations humaines et notamment les relations parents et enfants, et il y a une interaction, il y a une
the children have, of course, rely upon their parents, and there is in a sense the parents also rely on their children, and there's a close interrelationship there. But of course, at the early stages of a child's life, the parents play a primordial role, and the father and the mother especially at the very early stages, and of course it's very important that the parents look after the children properly, feed them well, care for them well, look after their health and so forth. That function can be assumed by either parent, of course, or both, but so often this is the mother because of the physical relationship that was early on established between the mother and the child. But as time goes on, of course, the parents' role, in a sense, decreases as the child grows up and this child is sent to school and so forth. Other people are involved in raising the child, looking at educating it and so forth. But as time goes on, though, it becomes more important how the children behave towards their parents and how they care for them. And it's important that should be done well, that the children should also have a caring and loving attitude towards the parents and do their best to look after them. And this, according again to Buddhist values, if that is something that you do or have done, and something to be glad of course. If you have to admit that it's not necessarily the case, then perhaps it's time to admit it to yourself and see that maybe you could have done better, and maybe you can still, if that you still have your parents, still do better in caring for your parents, especially if they're elderly.
Donc, en tout cas, c'est un peu comme ça qu'on envisagerait les choses dans le bouddhisme.
제산 파만도 부근 주시리다 밤에 보고 야고지기를 밤에 랭게 보고 밤을 봐 들린 소리들 보고 랭게 다 조르차라 되는 바다신 바변한다 수수 좀 김지 바신이 고준다 심제 탐정 얼마나야만다 예 수수 밤을 따다 오면은 심제 탐정 해야 되되 가점만다 가고 차야 돼. 그래서 수수 밤을 다 보고 내와야고 종수는 신내인데 수수 좀 봐. 김지에 되는 신도 그래. 다 정말 힘들었을 수수 가두이나 투대가래. 그래서 정말 김지에 봐도 참보면은 가두이나 투대가 가두이나 롱랑대나 정말 막아 수수 막이 가두이나 정말 힘들 투대가라. 미다 수수이나 정말 힘들 매번 미치야 말이야. 다 수수이면 야고에는 뒤래. 야고면은 정말 힘들 봐도 드문한 기디. 양디 님이 수술 강해지 대그래. 강해자지가 대야 인이라 수수 주부 먹어 가리나 가디는 주부 대야 말이야. 한가 주부 영아 밀으라고 하면 쉽지 인선 있잖아. 님은 지금 수술 강해 태도 수술 정보다 수술 저희 요미단데 수술 대세 내가 봐이난tilde 수술 무심 강가다 두거랑 무시게다 수술을 어째야 말아 반나고 따야 말아 두 이제야 말아 저 너무 힘들이 전부지야 돼. 재밌게 계신 비치르샤.
So, like I said, there is a mutual relationship of caring and a responsibility between parents and their children at different phases of the life of each, and it's like I said, this is the very foundation for developing a good relationship with all beings and caring for them. And like I said, it's not enough just to focus on one's nuclear family or even just one's extended family, because, for example, there's the neighbors. One's neighbors, one always has neighbors, and it's you can expand from your own family to include, for example, your neighbors and caring for them as well. They are near you, and it's important to have a good relationship with your neighbors. And if you instead think, oh no, I'm fine, I'm on my own, I can stand on my own 2 feet, I don't need anybody else, that's all very well, while it's the case. But in our lives, inevitably, practically, one will find oneself in a difficult situation, or things are not quite so easy, and it's not so easy, therefore, to be that independent person, always standing on your own. And if in the meantime you haven't created a good relationship with others, then who are you going to turn to? Who can you count on then to give you a helping hand? And that's why it's not just for out of self-interest, but first and foremost for the benefit of others. It's good to try and have a good relationship and be kind and caring. Also, for example, with one's neighbors.
pour nous. Nous ne savons pas ce qui peut arriver un jour et peut-être qu'un jour nous aurions besoin d'une aide particulière et à ce moment-là, ça sera ceux qui sont près de nous, même concrètement parlant, qui pourraient nous l'apporter. Et donc, ça serait bien ainsi d'arriver à avoir de bonnes relations de voisinage, à nous de trouver le vecteur nécessaire pour y arriver. Et à partir de là, nous allons pouvoir élargir de plus en plus.
But of course, this is just a first phase. From there, we must try and extend our kindness and benevolence, our caring attitude towards more and more beings, people, and others. That's the ideal in Buddhism, to come to having a loving attitude towards all living beings.
Beaucoup plus concrète, c'est-à-dire les plus proches, puis un peu moins proches, mais encore proches, et ainsi de suite.
그래서 수수 정부 kim지대 뱀스에 개체못 줄이다. 정부 kim지다 정부 시행 저번에 보다 자 유지리 뒤 다 수수는 바가로 남주리하고 또 자질이모나 냠도도 너도라다 온주 베벨루스잖아. 자라지 도 냠도 하 호스 대벨루스야래. 단 봐봐 양 루스가는 아주 지금 말하는 다 베벨루스잖아. 마도 좀 저번에 보이나 봐준 잠자 깨지라 시하우스 되는 간도 수수 봐야고 쟤나 그 저번에 뭐 연애 수간도 당에 봐 저번에 뭐 dinner제비도 그 날도 야구시라 지금도 그 삼로 줄기 텐더라 딱그 삼로 미신이 골롱 좀다 만들지가 그래서 수수 봐야 야구 쟤서나 그 간도 삼로 줄기 텐더에 봐 저번에 뭐 dinner제나 그 날도 야구 지금도 삼로 그 삼로 줄기 텐 대간도 좀 침지 참부 차래 참부 차는데 지나 좀 침지라가 뒤나 투대긴지래만 못해야 말아 그래서 다 kontroller는 나서 좀 침지를 바로 팀부지는 제대로 좀 침지만 미신다 하시르샤 도야서 말라 센다서 말라 도시 딱 제 지시리 수수 좀 침지 디레 이 뒤엔 전부 좀나 내가 걸레 파걸 야래야 친 강가 전부 차 다 뒤엔 바지 롱존 파 롱존 조롱존 지나 간조 이젠 지리시에 바수 디게지상 수주시에서 질면시나 계속 파치를 수치를 간도 강가 찍질 이제는 강가 마가찬으로 두신전 대 가시양 두신 잡는다는 지경아래 그래서 계지 뒷모여원 땅부터 파 전부전 되고 지치산 리노 그래 이미 지 수술 야고증인데 이미 지 수술 가긴 태배가 돌아 콜을 해주죠 신 남중에 오면서나 강에 두디 콜을 해가지나 남중에 알줘봉에 못 된거 그때 들인 알 레노섬 선거라 제선데 어디 전부지기 빼면서 이렇게 뭐
So the having a good relationship, friendly relationship with one neighbors is really important. They're close to you, and the better kind of relationship you have with them, the happier, the more harmonious things your life will be. And it's not always easy though, because it depends on the character of your neighbors. Some people are friendly and open, others are more closed and difficult to get along with, depending on their character. But if we just ignore them because we fear their difficult characters and don't do anything to try and change the relationship you have with them, well, then things are not going to improve, and eventually, if they express harsh words towards you and speak with you angrily and so forth, well, you have it could create problems for you, and you could run the risk of having a bad reaction in you, and also speaking to them in an unpleasant manner, which will certainly not improve things. So if your neighbors are easygoing, then it's of course much easier to establish a good relationship with them. But even if they're not, then this doesn't mean you have to leave things at that. You can work on improving the relationship and trying to be a little bit friendly with small gestures of kindness and towards them, just speaking a few words when it's possible, or eventually, offering a drink to them or a cup of tea, have them over to a cup of tea, give them some water when it's cold or when they're working in the garden, whatever. There's different possibilities, but to slowly sort of break the ice and show to them that you're willing to be, friendly with them and help them out if necessary and so on. Well, that can slowly maybe change their attitude. It's a possibility, and they come to see that you as your, maybe they can come to see you not as an enemy or a person who's they don't want to have anything to do with, and so on. They can come to see, well, maybe this person's not so bad after all, this neighbor I have, and slowly but surely you can come to improve your relationship. Someone has to make the first step, though, and look, you can't count on it being the other person. You're better off taking that first step yourself. And if you can, therefore, like I said, break the ice and slowly but surely sort of improve your relationship with your neighbors, well, that's important for them. It's also important for you, and eventually it could come to mean that when either that person is in difficulty, you can help them out. They'll know that they can turn to you, or vice versa. When you have a problem, a thing that you need help with, well, then maybe you can also turn to them for some help. But they may be able to then come to someone that you can count on, and vice versa. They might come to feel that they can count on you as well.
Et or, il vaut mieux commencer à le faire avec les voisins immédiats parce que notre confort de vie, notre qualité de vie dépend beaucoup d'eux.
제사한테 좀 침제 야고 중난테 참여는 주세 디네니다 신다단 제사 수수다 같이 베베날 대좀 있어야만 다 밤은 빙자다 지름이 갬밤 먹고 수수 주고 대전 셈 투디기 이베메 내수 먹고 저걸 지나 제사 예 심디면도 세지 남는다 다음에 심데스 배티야마를 세야마를 심제진 배야님해 나 배야 유는 수수 심제진 디가라 나 배야 메신데 심제제나 수술은 여기만다 벤다야마 심제지제니 제간도 삼루 배나 장종게도 장직도니도 간도 돈이 늘듯이 간도 염버를 시작하라 인나신 심제지제니 제간도 밥그 배야라고 미친 삼루 수수 삼루 맨에 차가라 대간도 심제지제니 선던 ram만다 통고도 쓰인데 지진도 심제지의 기회래 대 심제제나 배야 유는 심제제인데가 심제제인 따윈이 배야요 말이 심제제인 도르도르 다 놀란 노예나니 담은 노타르만다 데라 사디오디란 지나 수수는 리만 우주는 접지아르만다 디심제제 나반세나 수술로는 뒤에만다 펜다 따윈이요 말이 제선 심제 나기 펜스.
Donc ça, c'est un premier aspect de la question. Maintenant, dans les sociétés actuelles telles que la nôtre, objectivement parlant, surtout au moment de l'âge, avant, il y a beaucoup de personnes seules.
So that's one point I wanted to make. Now, another point we have, our situation we have in our society, modern society today, is that many people find themselves alone and unhappy because of that. They feel very lonely, and they can too easily therefore maybe become sad and depressed, and some turn to drink and to try and resolve the problem, which of course is not going to solve any problem whatsoever, but only aggravate the situation, the feeling that you have. So if you find yourselves alone, and if you worry about it, it's not going to help. If feeling worried about being alone was going to resolve the situation or improve it, of course, why not? But worrying about the situation you have, be it feeling lonely or any other problem for that matter, worrying about it is not going to be constructive, is not going to resolve the situation. The only thing to do is to look for solutions to your difficulty, and if there is one, work on it. It's also it's possible that when at a certain point in our life we look back at the things we've done in the life so far and realize that we made certain number of mistakes, and we tend to maybe unnecessarily dwell on them mentally, sort of ruminate them, and of course doesn't help either. Of course, if you made mistakes, it's good to admit it to yourself, but then go forward and not sort of completely focus on the mistakes you've made in the past and dwell on them. It will only again make you feel worse and will not change anything about what you did. And it's better, therefore, to, of course, to admit to yourself the mistakes you've made, but to go forward and try and do better in the future.
다 보고도 냠도 대학 수준 만이라 대화 침삼다 만이랑 흘려지 대화 말씀대 싶지가 다 신다 연 편도 봐를 쓰네 기타 다 밤마도 보고 냠도 매체 밤에 보고 야 당자다 보고 밤마 샤냐 괜찮을 때야 다 괜찮을 때는 다 지나 밤에 레그러더라 괜찮니 다마 치월도 야래만도 괜찮니 신날이 신나지야 말아 다 괜찮을 레슨 다 디데는 시기인 선파면 sem날 남라 망글레라 다냠 보고도 냠도 대대나 계지라 제 보고 든도 이러자 절로만을 봐 두지 되려와래 난 칼만 이제 못나 다님도 하고서 다 주고 샤디티 삼로 거야 주긴 소지 sem마집 차야디 삼로 남만다 콜 이 계지 제로세메 다 괜찮을는 수들을 하면다 당조가 녀만 벨잠들이 강바토스가 두지게 너 이가 기고나만 밑에 다 되는데 디세망감다 예배따라 실로파는 도서가 말했어 수고리들 지난 팀을 나올라 다도 지금 수수고리 다 보겠네 바얀디 수수로 왕자를 주는 걸 맵산더라 수수 김단나 얘는 수수 보고 다님도 지금 수수로 왕자를 열어 그래서인데 어디 주고 대하든 너방가 하고 매점 두디 더가 어디 미망고 기고나마 때 된다 어디 괜찮아 했어 그래서 샘교도가 싶통 그래서인데 어디다 샘교유라 디주부에 대해 진로된 선이 말했어 이 라월 쇼차라 그래서인데 디는 마디 괜찮은데 처음이다 발로 이러면다 제 야말을 내게 담아를 리사라 그래서 삼를 넘어는 거야 두긴 소지 디멘다 삼도
Of course, if you look at traditional society, then the way society functioned was like different. There was such a thing as called an extended family, not just a nuclear family, and the parents lived with their children, and the children looked up to the parents, and there was grandchildren, and maybe aunts and uncles and so forth, and there's a large, sort of small, fairly large sort of family community that functioned together. And there was, if the old parents couldn't talk with one children or one person in the group, they could always find somebody else they could talk with, and if not, then at least they knew there were others around them, and they could spend their time doing whatever activities, on their own that they wanted, knowing they were safe and so forth. In the Buddhist society, of course, especially in Tibet, there was a thing of reciting prayers and reciting mantras and so forth, and they could be happy just to sit and do that, the parents, but it's the thing is, of course, here that's not such the way of life anymore. And often what happens is the parents are placed in old folks' homes, in a residence for the aged, and it's not a very happy situation for the parents in question, the elderly parents, because in a sense they've been parked in an old folks' home, and they know they're there, and they're there until they die, and they're going there in a sense to die, and that's of course not a very happy thought to have for the parents. And I've seen from the outside old folks' homes in once when I went to Belgium, and I saw the old folks were spending their time looking out the window, and because they had nothing else to do. They couldn't go out, and since they were locked inside, they didn't have the freedom to go outside, and they had to stay inside, sort of locked inside. And it was really rather a sad situation. The loss of independence, loss of freedom, loss of partners in conversation, and so forth. And of course, if you find yourself in a different, in other words, the parents can still continue to live with their members of their family, it's quite a different situation and much more favorable for the old folks. They feel surrounded by those who are looking after them, and the responsibility for looking after them can be shared by others.
On ne s'en rend pas forcément compte quand on est soi-même plus jeune et puis qu'on pense qu'on n'a pas d'autres possibilités. Mais quand on
it's good to put yourself in the position of the elderly person and put them in their stead to imagine what they're going through when they are sent to an old folks' home. It's not a happy thing.
제스는 계속한 것다 지랑을 주도 지라요 메딩을 섬주를 부시죠래. 계속한서디 지랑다 보고 보면 변이 이미지보다 보고 김장 교부 시부지제 답시 주는 맨다 계속한다. 이제 제를 만다 소수 김장 어제 야치네 밤아 계속한 제야디 대전 아주 배배제는 배탑도 보고 밤을 써보선 빼면서 탑도 지어래. 보고 뒤 밤을 주는 야고제야 말해서 밤에 예제면서 대부분도 밤에 두시를 란도라 간죠. 그래서 밤에 섬리나나당 계속한다 이쯤에디야 당수 섬진라만 섬먹고 밤에 섬리나 라만 먹고서 밤에 멜름 두자 잡소나 뒤복을 빼 두자인 거야. 뒤가지가 땡기지래. 밤에 멜름 문도 보면서 그래. 그래서 밤말에 야고지야 빼면서 계셔. 보고 참 보고 개모 차수는 밤말 봐 야고지야. 밤에 보고 준조건 소리야 야고지야. 땡게 점링 지산이 지단을 땡게 기결이지만 안주 사업소요 말이 정말tam지라 보고 다 보고 밤에 그냥 낭유절에 땡안주 집만 우치시는 메시나 남도 땡기래. 저도 밤도 보고 받은 듯이 오면나 디 지난 점점 남들만 때때 도스그래 녀다 용스그래 갑자기 쇼스그래 디 진이래 가두이나 참부지가 말 화와슬라디 그바이나 기부지 말에 가브리 대화를 가브 동하로 디 진이래만도 가두이나 강에 티서이다 가두이나 기부용서 수치래요 말에 그래서인데 미초보 치부든데나 님은 저 강에 대자래고 땅 주고에 하수건을 하고 맹하다 쉽지 선보인 교보다서 통중 땅 있잖아 님은 저 수수강에 대그래 디디 밀러스 매버 찾아라 디 공식 배분식에 계시면 또또 밤마다 보는 시에디제 디 계속한 저디 니미 로봇수수의 공시를 하나 주도야 말이다. 저배배 산산을 드는데 밤을 하고 지야 빼면서 간 내가 전부 등안주 삼로도 하나에 섬제한 거 마마 저 지게면서 밤마저 이난다 섬제 수수 밀리토죠 된주 밀리도 밤을 따오게 하나요 오면은 다 섬제 밤을 봐 가고 찾아라. 저산 수수 기온 뒤 밤을 하고 지야 돼. 다저 밤에 냐면 밤은 담아서 다 겨 가르가 라이메 가르레미 수익월레메 아주 수직 와요 말아 디고 교르지래 다친디 파마야 오지야 디나 파마다 부근 디시하고 코야디 만들랭게 조르지 sendi게.
Cette question des institutions pour personnes âgées ou des maisons de retraite, évidemment, ça ne regarde pas à titre personnel.
This issue of the existence of residence for the elderly and old folks' homes, if you like, is something that's quite well established in modern society, but And there are, of course, the situations in which is totally understandable that the parents should be sent to an old folks home so they get proper care when the parents are very ill or either mentally ill or physically ill and really need constant care. But if there's no other choice, then I can understand that these parents should be placed in an old folks home. But for someone coming from Tibetan society, this idea is almost difficult to, it's almost unthinkable to put your parents in an old folks home. People, as Buddha says, and as coming from a traditional society, it's unthinkable that the children should not look after their parents. Like as I said, that there is a mutual responsibility in the relationship between parents and children. It's very important that the parents have their great responsibility in looking after their children and raising them. But that works both ways. And when time moves on, the responsibility shifts. And it is the children's responsibility to look after their parents. And of course, that does not mean that there will always things will always go smoothly between the parents and their children. There can be rough periods and times when there are disputes and disagreements and so forth. That's inevitable. It's part of life. But fundamentally, it's important to still believe in it and work on a good relationship with the parents. And having a different kind of attitude where you think, oh, now I'm grown up, I'm fine, I'm stuck and stand on my own, I don't have to rely on anybody and nobody has to rely on me. That is kind of very egocentric and really, I believe, a mistaken attitude, because that's also very well when everything's fine and dandy and working out well for you, but that is not always the case throughout one's entire life, and there will be times when you need others, and just as others will need you, and therefore to have a sort of egocentric kind of attitude where you feel you don't have to count on others and there's no reason why others should count on you is unrealistic, and it's important therefore to work on developing a consideration for others and a caring attitude for them, and to be as helpful to others as possible, so that when the day you are in trouble, you know who to turn to, and you can, there's certain people that you can turn to. This core relationship between parents and children is something, like I said, is the starting point, a starting block, but from there you are to extend it out to as many, include as many beings as possible. And this is in Buddhism, we're talking about working for the benefit of all sentient beings, but if you don't start at home, so to speak, then this kind of phrase that you may recite, is empty. It's empty of meaning, really, and you cannot develop kindness towards others without starting to do the same at home, so to speak.
당한줄 잠물린 게 민간가 지를 직된데 교수리래 배나 난주 신바스진 동주세와디 신배 수놈 답지라면서는 난주 직된데야 신배 수놈 다운데 다 드셔야 그래도 간가 신반이 용가라 당한주 신발에서 동주체 가시한 동주적인 데는 신발에 재미 나는 신발 동주시지가 단 난주 도망가 가리면 미신 수수 사야이나다 동야이나 가리나 찔때디 겨르면 수수치가 용야매베 배샤유네 신변 루리더자면은 아주 녀야면다 다 신발라인 요근고 가리 난돌아 신배 단단 루리리스다 내 두시브르서 원다만 사야 강가 신반에 된 중결아 신배 디메세는 안 사야 말이 제선데 찔러 찍된 파주 섬상아도 찍된 대샤리샤 파주 지랑 같은 셈 강가 일단 신반면은 안 사야미제 당한 중 요금에는 신발 자야 말아. 다 신발 간도 샤는 깔래 같이 자거든 부가서 세거든. 다 혼주 나 루리 야오용 약체도 다 친구 이치든 부모고 세가라. 내데 띠버를 안 주잖아. 내 레디나다 혼자 갈래 좀 맞잖아. 안돌 디야 말한 찍을 찍된 레샤 참. 다 수주고 있는 시간 때문에 수주고 미신다면 수지를 하지야 말이야. 다 밀자리 자고서는 댄스를 치고 그래. 밀바 야고지는 미신다 주고 그래. 진보다는 당시 유지고 그래. 콘도사는 콘수 사시 유지. 다 될라 수수 삼다는 지를 찍된 레샤만도 지파샤 주샤 제가 뒤신다 찍대야습니다. 재산 수주고 서찬을 재산 수수 밀텐디 여름만도 나도 블로그에 난다 사야에 난다 정말 밀텐 중조장자를 재산에 나도 단다 라사야 고야 가르가리네 미신달 된 중조를 만든 한주 제게 아마라 어디다 잘못한지는 지를 진짜니 나도 삼집으로샤 삼삼동도 비무스게 치버샤
So another point I wanted to raise is that to underline the fact that we need to understand that everyone in this world is depends on others. We imagine that we can have some kind of independence, but in fact, our whole lives are connected with others, and there is constantly in every aspect of our lives a relationship of dependence on others, and on others depending on us, of course, as well. Take just the food we eat. Of course, if the farmers didn't raise, plant the far crops and raise the animals and so on, then we wouldn't have anything to eat. We wouldn't have anything to eat. We wouldn't drink. But unfortunately, some people who are sort of have a different kind of lifestyle other than the farmers tend to look down on the farmers and see it as some kind of inferior profession and so forth, where if you think about it properly, how could we survive without them? If they didn't exist, the farmers, we wouldn't have anything to food to put on our plate, we wouldn't have anything to drink and so forth. And it's this in some societies there is a tendency to look down on the farmers as some kind of lower life form or someone not equal to us in some kind of way. But that's a very mistaken attitude. And when we try and think, when we take the time to think about it, considering how much we owe those who provide us with the food that we eat by through their work, and we need them, and they, of course, in some ways need us too. There's always it goes back and forth both ways. Farmers have a difficult time often, and their lives are not easy. They often have to use pesticides and things, and not in some way prevent the crops from being destroyed by using them and so forth, and they end up killing other forms of life, which is not a happy situation. But it is still thanks to their efforts that we survive, because we have food to eat and so on. And this, of course, includes not just farmers, but those who produce the clothes we wear, for example, as well. If we didn't have factories with people working in them, we wouldn't have clothes to wear and put on our back. And it's true of every aspect of our life. The pleasant and easy lives we live are the result of the efforts of others, and it's important that we are aware of it and accept it and appreciate also what others do for us, even and in a sense recognize the benefits that we draw from others' efforts, and instead of just sort of taking it for granted.
Que seuls nous ne sommes rien, que en fait nous dépendons totalement des autres, ça peut complètement changer notre vision des autres et également notre rapport aux autres.
땅에 맞잡으로 막 쉬면도 수수 툴 로다 유난히 냠네 잘래나 다 수수에는 초스면은 샤샨디가 녀시가 녀다지 자담 녀시가 때문에 인슈가 말해 수수 툴이야 지난 3년나 팬더로 유는 있는 이메나디 샤샨디가라 시간에 말 재산도 다 조조멍저 롭종이 요미 장장데 다 수수 롭종이 요디 시인디 야구칠이 배주단 해거래 디비철 배주단디 수수 롭종 재미지 배치 수수 작서를 차려 다 롭종 띵산 잠물린 라마를 지금 간가 롭종이 요다스 지가라 미 롭종 시라면 요다스 라마를 제거다 요 말에 그래서인데 다 롭종이 요다스 배주 야구집마다나 다 배주 두자질 단디 배미스는 잠물린 풍장 라마를 제거간가 롭종이 요다스 미드 제일 담보 지나 다 롭종이 요디 배주 로버는 로지기 배미스 개첨부 그래서
So I've said various, and I've shared with you a various number of thoughts, of feelings that I have, and it's up to you to determine whether you agree with some of the things I've said or not. If you agree, that's fine. You can maybe use what I've expressed. If you don't agree, that's fine as well. So you're free to decide what is useful or true. Yourself. I just wanted to share a few ideas with you. And I know all of you are pretty well educated people, and that's precious. But of course, it all depends what you do with your education. If you use it, the education you receive to in a useful manner and to be kind to others and helpful to others, so that's a wonderful thing. But if you use your education to finally, at the end of the day, use do things that are not particularly beneficial to others and might even be harmful to them, well, that's a great shame. Uneducated people perhaps have less options, and educated people have more. But it's education, if it's used to a good end, that's worthwhile. But if it's used then badly to hurt others, then of course better off without it.
예선데 롭종 이게도 스피지라고 하면서 시선데 양가시 롭종 이걸은 담는 신성권 뒤에 베지라고 하면서 롭종에 요다서 상제도 야마르디 롭종 요다서 베지라고 하면서 지스로 쉬거면도 롭종 제리하고 두자리 쉬면 그래서 선조만으로 나로나 그래서 롭종 수술롭종 이거디 수수치라 다 강가 롭종 요간 리가라 롭종에는 리가 말이 롭종에 나 수수 뱀버리 지고 주나가 이나 강가 롭종 그거를 디안디 비주얼로 보면 로지가 돼요 상가시에 롭종 요된 담은 제 지로 어떤 건 하고 된다라 그래서인데 어디 비주얼로 보면 로지 망절 팬도 없이 달라나나 이 롭종이 되고 쳐래 수수까지 겹다는 장아리라 베스처래 그래서인데 롭종 이연나무 저 도모하고 싫어나 대다도 다 수고 이를 뒤나 단다린 어떤데 좀내 베미스가 가고 좀 투지스 너무 뭐나 등하던 남징이밀 하고 말이 남아서 내 주전에 양산스페 바도 소전나나 바도 인저와르디 파야고 차야고 용스레 제선 지금 돈이모도 되나 이 말아 난 로르나 템지니 좀 가져 선나이나 디선님도 소전나 바도 카메라나 디안 낭저 돈을 줄로 돈다면 팬더요 낭저 돈 수수 팬더요 너는 바도 이제 팬더면은 샤션 디어레 인지민지 나고 지고를 쉬어 말해 제사 줄로 가리나인디 밀 팬더지긴 땅야리만다 밀내기 등 줄로 여 말해 제선데 단 남wen디 다 되었지못 전세견인데 어디 또 생각해 신다 줄로 다스 밀 팬더지긴 땅야레 이슈를 차시나 오늘 담지름 제 가지고나 이슈 안만니 뒤집혀와리 시라 순간 제가 대보다 수수 이제 오네 오열해 다 밤에 주민이 고민이 서로 제때나 수술 경우라가로 디 가리나 때문에 yanti mele pendo yabele chena chulu kari na kya mare inji binji na buche mare chesan kumaya ushera nas.
So please don't misinterpret what I said about education. Of course, I believe education is extremely important. It's excellent if you have access to one and to make the most of that opportunity to get a good education. It's just I just wanted to underline the fact that it depends on what you use it for. Education opens many doors and makes it possible to accomplish many things. I just be careful not to sort of twist your education and use it for something that could be harmful to others. It's the ideal, of course, is to use your education to achieve something that is beneficial and constructive and that contributes something positive, therefore, to the society that you're living in. That's all I wanted to. That's the point I wanted to make. Of course, accomplishing something useful to society as a whole it comes down to, in a sense, having a religious practice, following a spiritual path. In a sense, it is because you're accomplishing something that we qualify as virtuous, as good, and that will have positive consequences to you and others in the future. So I wanted to just add that. We'll conclude now. I'm glad to have had this opportunity to meet you this time again. We don't know what the future holds, and it's important to try and use the time you have left in this life well. This is how we see things in Buddhism. The time of our leaving this life is always unknown, uncertain, and therefore it's important to live your lives meaningfully and constructively without wasting your time. Here you have access to what we call a Buddhist center. You have access to the teachings of the Buddha, and it's maybe an opportunity for you to seize if you have some kind of inclination towards it. Attending some of the activities of the center does not by any means require becoming a Buddhist yourself. The activities are open to all, to people who have other religions or people who have no religion. People are just interested in finding out more about Buddhism. There's options is there to participate in some of the activities that we hold. And I just wanted to mention that some of you have your own spiritual path, which is fine, and I respect highly all the religions, because like I said, religions basically are there to allow people to become happier in their lives and to accomplish good for themselves and others. And my teacher, Lochen Rinpoche, often mentions, for example, how the power of faith in Christianity, for example, is something that is extremely present, and so having faith in whatever religion you follow can be helpful to you, and like I said, can be therefore helpful to others, but that doesn't mean that if you have some interest in other religions that you have no right to follow that interest, and like you have the opportunity to do so in the center if you're so inclined. But to sort of be indecisive about how you feel about things is a bit it's a bit of a shame, in the sense that if you have your own path, it's good to follow it, and if you do nothing in that sense with your life, always remaining holding back from some kind of interest, is a bit of a shame. So thank you, all of you. I would just like to conclude with my encouragement to you to have a good relationship with your family members, with your neighbors, and with all around you, to cultivate as good relationship with others as you can.
Les voisins, les collègues, et puis après, de plus en plus.
Of course, thank you very much.
Bonne journée.
차례다.
Merci.
sont un peu fragiles, ils se font. Oh, bah dis donc. Non, il y avait un fil qui passait dessus, qui était enroulé, qui passait, qui tapait sur le bras de la vie.